What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. Thank you for downloading, watching the #1 ranked show with me, RJ Young, on your Fox Sports app, wherever it is you get your podcast. And of course, on the YouTubes, we are doing it. And check it. As we get closer to the season, we're going to also pick up the cadence a little bit here, and you're going to get at least, 2 a week of the #1 ranked show. And of course, I'm always going to do my VOD stuff. Those of you that watched the Quinn Ewers bit I did, I appreciate it. That is exactly for you. And it's one of the things I really love about working at Fox is we can respond to news and we can have this conversation going into shows like this one, where yes, the lead has got to be Oklahoma and Texas join the SEC. Now, how does Oklahoma and Texas joining the SEC change football? Quite a bit, as you might understand and add. One, it is the first 16-team conference, or will be the first 16-team conference in the history of the sport. 14 was the number for the Big Ten. You also, I keep looking at this and going, the Big 12 is down to 8. When it started with 12, was at 10. Pac-12 went from 10 to 12. Big Ten just refused to change its name because it's been around literally as long as the Olympics, since 1896. And they get to sit here and look pretty. And then you look at the ACC, and they've had rumor after rumor coming about Florida State and Clemson joining the SEC, to which you've had both sides of that say, hey, we have had no discussions about those two teams joining the SEC. But the reason I think that Oklahoma and Texas is interesting here is because Oklahoma and Texas have always wanted to operate like Southeastern Conference schools, and politically, Texas and Oklahoma have always been of the South. So this is really them just trying to get along where they fit in, is what they think. But for me, growing up with the Big 12 being my league, this has been a tremendous deal for me that I have not been, let me go at this another way. I've been loath to talk to you about this actually being a thing, because I've grown up with Oklahoma playing against SEC teams and taking a special pleasure in beating the hell out of SEC teams. As a matter of fact, if we're getting into the nitty-gritty of it, Oklahoma and Texas have done nothing but destroy the SEC since its inception, 1932. And for those of you that have wondered, Oklahoma has been a part of a big something since 1919, Big 8, Big 12, so forth, so on. But the thing that I really enjoyed about this, and I'm pulling up the stat right quick, is just how badly Oklahoma and Texas have beaten up on SEC opponents, okay? So Oklahoma is 110, 49, and 8 against SEC opponents. Texas is even better than that, 191, 92, and 9 against SEC opponents. To which already, when I tweeted that stat out, I have SEC stands coming, hey, those facts are irrelevant. All those wins and losses are irrelevant. Oh yeah, Bear Bryant is irrelevant. Okay, Herschel Walker is irrelevant. Okay, to say nothing of the way that Oklahoma's been beaten up on Texas, right? They take losses so seriously at Oklahoma to Texas that Mike Stoops got fired after losing 48-45 to Sam Ehlinger and Texas. And then the next year, Alex Grinch and them come back. They put Sam Ehlinger on his behind 9 times. And then the following year, Tom Herman is seen out the door. Those two folks can't stand each other. And I like that they're probably going to be in something like a division or pod playing against each other every year in the Cotton Bowl. That's cool. But the other thing to keep in mind here is, what are you doing against the class of the conference? Because we can all make jokes about Vanderbilt and how much they suck. And as much as it's going to hurt Javion's feelings, South Carolina ain't been about nothing for about like 10 years, okay? We can keep going. Like, Cats, Tennessee. Oklahoma knows something about that. You know what I mean? And if you're taking a look at it, Oklahoma's got a winning record against SEC teams just in the last 10 years. But against the class of the conference, that is Alabama, Oklahoma is 3-2-1 all time, and Texas is 7-1-1 all time. Again, let me put this in terms you can understand. Oklahoma and Texas are a combined 10-3-2 against Alabama. It's not as if Oklahoma and Texas, more Oklahoma than Texas, are going to walk into the SEC and get handed their heads. That's not what's going to happen. Though I do believe that it's going to be a much more difficult way for Oklahoma to try to make the college football playoff. And then from that standpoint, I cannot agree that this was in your best interest, because basically since 2009, Alabama's been nothing but a juggernaut, destroying people. From Rolando McClain to Tua Tagovailoa. From my man's Patrick Surtain II to Jerry Jeudy. You can keep going, right? Just in the last 10 years, we put an all-Alabama team out there that could probably stop a mud hole and walk dry the rest of college football. I don't know that that's what you want if you're Oklahoma, but to Bob Stoops' point on the College Football on Fox preseason show, Oklahoma might have been a few defensive recruits short of beating Georgia or winning a national championship in 2017, to which I would say, Bob, I think we were a defensive coordinator short, but that's just me. I'm not going to run a three-man front against Nick Chubb and Shoney Michel. I don't think that's about having players. I think that's about having scheme. But Alex Grinch is defensive coordinator for now, till that man takes a head coaching job, which I think is in his future. But also in here, what has Oklahoma done against Nick Saban has been really fascinating for me, because you'll remember the 2003 Oklahoma Sooners were probably the best team of my lifetime. Certainly the best team not to win a national championship. And they got beat by Nick Saban's LSU, right? 2004. And then you're talking about, yes, of course, the 2013 Sugar Bowl and 2018 Orange Bowl. But Oklahoma's 2-2 against Nick Saban as the head coach in the SEC. So what I'm saying here is I think Oklahoma's going to be fine, but is fine good enough? Because fine gets you into the SEC championship game. It does not get you the SEC championship. Ask Georgia in 2019. Okay? And somebody's got to play Alabama and Florida, right? Because Florida was fine in 2020. Fine didn't do much for them in the SEC championship game. And I don't know that Oklahoma wants to be the second team into the college football playoff coming out of the SEC. And I also think this is going to change college football, because we're talking about changing the way the playoffs are done. We're already just taking the train to a 12-team playoff, but I think we're going to get to 16 quicker than you want to believe, in large part because the SEC will it so, right? Now, Greg Sankey went out there and said nobody from our league was clamoring for an expanded playoff. We were fine with 4. Yeah, it's because y'all could end up with 2 in the national championship game. I don't know that the rest of college football is going to take it very well that the SEC is going to show up with 8 teams they think they can get into the 16-team playoff, but that's where we are right now. I also think that when you take into account these all-time notes and rivalry numbers that I think should be in every media guide from College Station to Columbia, you should really take into account Ohio State, Michigan also, because Michigan leads Ohio State 58-51-6 in their rivalry, but ask the Wolverines how that has gone for the last 10 years, okay? What I find interesting about that is just how cyclical these things can be and usually will be. What I find hypocritical about that is the same people that want to tell me that, tradition matters and every game matters are the same people that are going to tell me, well, actually, RJ, we don't think that the previous nearly 100 years of college football matters when you're talking about how Oklahoma and Texas have destroyed SEC opponents on the regular, okay? You cannot have it both ways. You have to choose a side. Those of you that are fence sitting, I hope you fall between your legs, okay? That's where we're at with this. The other part about this that I think is going to be interesting, I don't know how this is going to play out, and I don't even want to really get into the logistics of it, except to say something's got to give with the overall money, revenue sharing, defensive recruiting, all this sort of stuff as we get closer to a 16-team SEC. You're going to have more haves and have-nots, which is the way of college football, by the way. But as we're getting to embrace the capitalistic principles of this country, name, image, and likeness, educational benefits not being capped, you're going to see more people grabbing for what they can, okay? And it might mirror what the pandemic has mirrored. Big companies did very well. Small companies, gone forever. Your core stocks now are Amazon, Facebook, Google. That's where your money is going. Apple. You are losing if you are a small business. That sucks. It sucks for college football most of all, because a lot of the greatness of college football is in small programs that operate like small businesses. I went to a small private university called the University of Tulsa. And I can't tell you how already Oklahoma State fans are trying to distance themselves from the University of Tulsa because they don't feel that the University of Tulsa is on their level, Even as Oklahoma looked at Oklahoma State and said, hey, there was no room for you in this deal. And the last time we tried to put you in the middle of this with us, they said, hey, we don't really want them because they're not on our level. You're going to see more tiers here, and that's not good for the sport. It's not good for you and I because it destroys the imagination and ideal of the American dream, which is that anybody could do it at any time, which you could take any direction you want to take, but I'm going to take it in this way. How has that been true, and when is that true? It's true for the folks that already have an advantage. It is not true for the disadvantaged among us. And the disadvantage among us in college football are always going to play in those quote-unquote group of 5 conferences. And now you have your first super conference that is even a level above the autonomous 5, as Bob Bowlesby and George Kliavkoff are having conversations about what that means for their respective conferences and whether or not they could be in lieu together and try to do something that I think is going to be very cool. Even so, this is going to get wilder. We're not done with this at all because the Big 12 feels some kind of way, and folks that are fans of other Big 12 teams feel some kind of way. Matter of fact, Texas Senator went at Jay Hartzell's neck going, hey, look, maybe your fans would like to lose to Alabama more than they would like to lose to Texas Christian. And she pointed out UT is 3-7 of the last 10 times they played Texas Christian. I love the pettiness of this because that is what is great about the sport. Everybody, your neighbors, care about what's going on here. Matter of fact, the day that we are recording this episode, Sonny Dykes got up there for Southern Methodist and said, hey, I think the biggest thing we should be talking about is whether or not horns down is still going to be a penalty in the Big 12. I submit to you, it should not be. You should be allowed to be as petty as you want to be with this because that is the best part of this sport, and that is the best part of Oklahoma and Texas joining the SEC. What I will not abide, what I cannot stand, is the idea of an Oklahoma fan chanting SEC. It will drive me crazy. I remember 2008. Hell, I remember 2004. I remember how badly I wanted Oklahoma to beat not just Alabama, but an SEC opponent. 2016 Auburn means something to me. Losing to Georgia in the 2017 Rose Bowl means something to me. And I'm not going to put that aside because y'all decided to up and join a new conference for the second time in 25 years. I don't like them. I doubt they like me. And as y'all would tell me, that's the way you want it to be, okay? So Oklahoma is coming to your conference, SEC. And Sooner is shorthand for laying thief. That means it ain't nothing for an Okie to show up to your front yard, drop a stake in the ground, and tell you to leave. This is how your conference becomes Oklahoma's conference, okay? You wanted this. Remember that. Remember, you wanted Oklahoma in your conference, to say nothing of whatever Texas decides to do with themselves. I'm not sure. Maybe they'll be all right. They command a lot of money. Kids usually want to go to school there, but we'll see if Steve Sarkisian can develop. I'm just here to tell you, I'm from the state that everybody's called a wasteland. I'm from the state that didn't nobody want. I'm from the state that they sent dispossessed nations to. And you think that us coming in your territory is going to change us? Nah, dog. Watch your back, SEC. All right. Now, I want to get your comments on a question that I put to you about how many national championships Oklahoma and Texas combined will win in their first 10 years in the SEC. Hey kinfolk, I appreciate you for watching. Subscribe here and ring the bell so you don't miss the latest upload to the channel. Also, be sure to watch more videos here, like FS1 Studio shows and the best from Fox Sports and Fox Sports Digital.